Welcome everybody. Today a step-by-step mixed media tutorial. I'm still working on the index card a day challenge following the prompts, so let's get started. I am working from a prompt from week 4, indigo. So that is the base color that I am going to go with. Now I've already put a coat of white gesso on my base, and now I'm going to mix two colors, phthalo green and dioxazine purple, to get this indigo color. I've grabbed a makeup sponge here and I'm mixing it wet on wet on the entire surface. I want to get a good base color. Now the benefit of mixing colors is you get different tones and hues, and you get a lot of variation, so you get that added value for very little added work. So I really encourage you to mix your paints. Add even a little bit of white gesso or black. Now I've had this Caramel Studio stamp texture plate for a long time and haven't used it, and today it occurred to me, if I tape it down onto this Dilutions block, I can use it as a stamp on here. I'm in the process of looking at the stuff that's in my studio and making sure that I'm using it. So I'm grabbing some white paint there, putting it on the brayer and applying it with the brayer. This is the best way, especially for a big stamp like this, to get a nice even coat without getting globs on it. Obviously, I love this texture plate, but it's rarely been used, so I'm really happy that I'm using it. I grab this is a gum container that I've made a stamp on, but I'm using the bottom to make sure I get good adhesion and a good stamp effect. Now, it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but I'm really happy with this process, and I think I'm going to end up using this texture plate and the other ones that I have a lot more now that I've figured out a way of using them within how I do art. So I'm just lining this up and getting another stamp, adding to my background. I'm just building interest in my background. So I'm cleaning my stamp with a spray of my Murphy's Oil Soap mixture. You want to throw that in a tub of water. You don't want the acrylic paint to dry on your stamp. Now once this is dry, I realize that the white is a little too forward, too busy. So I'm grabbing a little bit of Prussian blue, I believe, watering it down, and I'm just giving a wash of color. This is knocking back the white, but I'm still going to get all that pattern. The texture is still going to be there, but it's not going to compete with my focal image as much. Remember, the background is the background. And I'm using a baby wipe and getting a little bit more variations. I think I would have liked that stamp better if I had not done it full coverage over, just to maybe have stamped in a few corners. Now to add texture, but I'm starting to build my focal point, and I'm using this West Coast Flora stencil from the Crafters Workshop and one of their brand new TCW stencil butter colors, Green Pear. I'm applying with the palette knife, and OMG, I love this color. And that color, that Green Pear, looks so good against the indigo background. Now I cleaned my stencil, I dried the first one, and now I'm coming back with another element, building my focal point. This time I'm using another brand new color of stencil butter, Watermelon. Again, what's not to love about these? These are like texture pastes, a little thinner. They go through stencils. You can paint with them. You can do all sorts of things with them, but they have this amazing pearlized shine, and who doesn't like the colors? So I grab a napkin, Aqua World Water Turtle, this from Ninny's Napkins, and you can get the stencil butters and some TCW stencils from there, as well as other mixed media supplies. There's a link in the description box. I'm using the napkin that's a cocktail size, but it does come in two sizes, and I have both. And I'm just going to decide in a minute which size I want. So here's the process. I'm just going to rough cut it out from the napkin. I'm going to save the rest of the napkin because that can be used in a multitude of ways. And you can check out my napkin journal tutorials for all the variations of ways that you can use napkins in your art. You want to peel off the excess plies. Now, because my background is dark, and if I glued the napkin right on that, because it goes translucent, that's just going to negate my focal image. I'm going to glue this down onto just plain copy paper. And I'm using fluid matte medium. I'm putting a coat underneath it, put down my element, and then a coat on top to seal it. Being gentle, of course, because napkins get very fragile when they get wet. So I glued one of the small ones, one of the big ones. I glued a couple others down, and then once that was dry, I cut them out. But you didn't need to watch me cut. So while that's drying, I'm going to continue building my focal image, and I'm going to add another seaweed to the bottom. And this time I grab the color Seafoam. It's another one of those brand new colors from TCW in 2023. I'm using a palette knife, just go carefully. And lift the stencil up. Yum. I love the texture, the shine, the elements. So here I'm using the stencil with the stencil butter and the napkin to combine to make my focal image. I play with the idea of using 2 sea turtles. I'm playing with the composition. I'm making those final decisions. Whatever I don't use just goes into my stash, and it's one step closer to being ready to be used on another project. I decided that I wanted to use this green pear again, add a little bit more of that color because I love how it plays off that background, and I'm going to add some more seaweed down below. Or is it coral? I don't know. But these colors are perfect for my underwater creation. Again, in between I am drying all the stencil butters, or letting them dry. So now I need to glue down my focal image and my sentiment, and that sentiment I bubble cut it. It's one of the ones from my Ocean Commotion sentiment pack that's also available as a digital download at Ninny's Napkins if you're looking for sentiments for your projects. I'm gluing this down with matte medium. Now matte medium, it goes on and it's kind of cloudy, it dries clear. And then making sure that everything's dry. While that's finishing drying, I'm grabbing some black paint on my makeup sponge and I'm edging my page. This frames it, it finishes it. If this isn't something that you've done, try doing it and see what you think. It makes such a difference to me. Now I want to bring out that sea turtle. It's a little lost in that background because it's very much the blue, the indigo on top of the indigo. So I'm taking white acrylic paint and I am shading or highlighting all the way around it. And I've chosen white because of course my background is dark. So I'm going to give it kind of a halo around the sea turtle, and that's going to make it pop off the page a little bit. You now can see the sea turtle. I decided I wanted to add some white to the back or to the framing. I thought maybe that would look better than the black. I ended up going back to the black. You try something, it works or it doesn't, and then you adjust. So once I've had the shade highlighting around the sea turtle, and you can see how that's made it pop, I go and get some black acrylic paint, and now I'm going to shade on the napkin part the black. And between the white and the black, it really made the sea turtle stand out. I even shaded a bit on top of the napkin inside the, where the flippers are and the different patterns on his shell or her shell. And between those two, the sea turtle now has a better presence on the page. I took a little bit of a wash of blue on top of my white sentiment just to knock it back. I didn't want the white on there. That was too distracting. Adding a little bit of color to the napkin, just with a wash of blue or turquoise or whatever I have in my hand. Because you can colorize it. You can bump up those colors with a color medium. Loving how this looks. I decided I wanted to knock back those round bubbles, not make them so present, and I grabbed this, it's a kind of a crisscross stamp from, I believe it's a Stamperia stamp set, and I'm just stamping on it. It's just knocking back the round of the bubbles and making it look like smaller bubbles. It's a fine detail. You just keep playing till you get it how you like it. And then I add a splatter of gold paint which acts like more sea bubbles. Basically, I'm trying to recreate that watercolor world. But those stencil butters are the perfect thing for under the sea. And there we have it, at the finished card. It looks amazing. I'm very happy with it. I hope you liked it too. Until next time, go get creative.